So starting with our first session, mobility as a subsector for women's economic empowerment. Without much ado, I warmly welcome the moderator for this session, Ms. Abhirajita Bharti, founder partner, TQH, and co-founder, Young Leaders for Active Citizenship. May I request her to please join us on stage. A very warm welcome to you. And we now invite on stage our esteemed panelists for this session. I welcome Ms. Anjali Ravi Kumar, Chief Sustainability Officer, Eternal Limited. A very warm welcome. We warmly welcome Ms. Meenu Vadera, founder, Azad Foundation and co-founder, Sakha Consulting Wings Private Limited. I welcome Mr. Yogesh Kumar, CEO, Event Cargo. So very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, the esteemed session moderator. We are ready to start with mobility as a subsector for women's economic empowerment. I now hand it over to you to take the session forward.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone. I know this is day 2 of the conference and we are the first panel to go. Yogesh, I wanted to start with you. I'll start in this this thing. Basically, I think it'll be great if you can talk a little bit about what you do at Even Cargo and what prompted you to start it. Because, you know, now we have started seeing women doing deliveries, etc. But I guess when you started, they were far and few in between. So what opportunity did you see and what has been your journey so far?
Yeah, thank you, Prajita. So the idea was obviously not to build the logistics company when we started. The idea was, how do you make public spaces more accessible to women? How do you challenge gender norms in action? So those were the two basic things, because I was working in a corporate in 2013 and then I switched because I thought that there's need for Delhi to be a safer space. So that's the thesis with which we come from. The idea was not to set up an enterprise per se. We have tried multiple things, but then we zeroed down on, say, logistics, because that time delivery was very much synonymous with boys. So we would just say delivery boy. And that has not allowed, say, half the population to even access opportunity in that particular sector. So 2016 is when we started, and we started training and deploying women as delivery associate with major e-commerce companies. And until now, that's what we do. We help women get employment in the logistics, e-commerce, and other emerging opportunities in the gig economy.
Great. And Meenu, if I can ask you about a little bit about your journey, because you're like a pioneer in this, and you know, you've been working with women and getting them to become drivers first and then finding the right opportunities for them. What prompted you to start this and what has been your journey so far?
Thank you. Well, what prompted us was a little similar to what Yogesh said. We started in 2008 when there was not a single professional like a cab driver, at least in Delhi or all of North India. And I think for us, the most primary trigger was to break the glass ceiling that exists for the marginalized women. Because most of them, as we probably know, they have very few options outside the informal economy where there are very low wages, very little protection, etc. Not just break the glass ceiling, but also to help them earn what we call remunerative livelihoods with dignity. So they become principal breadwinners in their family. And in doing that, the third was so we chose driving as one such profession because it had low entry barriers, but also driving attacks at the heart of patriarchy like no other thing does, because mobility is the main thing that restricts women. So in doing that, also to make public spaces safer for more women. So that is how we started, and the rest is like, yeah.
Great. And Anjali, just to base set for everyone, why does Zomato care about this, that some delivery people are, women? Why did it come on the company's radar? Is it a push from the outside, or has it come from inside the company, or does it make business sense to do that?
Thank you so much for having Zomato and the Eternal Group now represented on this platform. Just for everyone's understanding, the Eternal Group owns Zomato, Blinkit, Hyperpure, and now District, if you've ever booked a movie ticket or for an event on District, or done a restaurant table reservation. And between the two, you can say delivery companies, which are Zomato food delivery and Blinkit quick commerce, we engage somewhere close to 7 lakh delivery partners across the country every month, which means they are active with us. They would have undertaken at least one delivery. And in order to maintain a base of 7 lakh every month, and this is growing, we need to onboard in a year something like 1 million plus people. These are very huge businesses, and we are just Zomato, Blinkit. There is Swiggy, there is Zepto, there is Amazon, there is Big Basket, right? And many others are now even entering quick commerce. So the scale of the business is such that the demand for people and human beings who know how to ride, have a license, have access to a bike is enormous. And our targets are crazy. If we have a target of onboarding 30,000 people a month, the real target is actually 50,000. So it's an imperative, let me put it that way. It's a growth imperative for us to consider onboarding women and cracking how to onboard women, because as Yogesh will also explain and Meenu will also say, it's a very hard job. Right now, only 4,000 of 7 lakh are women. I have, by the way, at the same time, 4,000 people with disability working. It is, funnily enough, easier for people with disability to enter this field than it is for women. And that is the problem that we must collectively solve. It is, as Meenu pointed out, a very remunerative option. A delivery partner earns 28,000 rupees a month for 8 hours of work a day, for 6 days a week. This is a very remunerative job compared to many jobs.
Okay, great. I just wanted to take a quick audience poll. How many of you have gotten any packet delivered by a woman? Anybody? Okay, very few. 3 people. Okay, how many people have found a woman driver on Uber or Ola? Okay, that's a little bit more interesting. Is that reflective of your experience? Okay, great.
Glad to see so many hands, yeah.
Okay, great. So I think, Yogesh, I wanted to ask you that, mobilizing women from resource-poor communities is obviously one of the key aspects of your approach, and that involves navigating a lot of significant cultural barriers that women face. So what strategies have made that possible for you? Like, what are the challenges that you've encountered? And
I think mobilization is perhaps the toughest part of the entire value chain, and Meenu would be able to talk more about it because they're the pioneers. But in our limited experience of working with women in the past 10 years, there are a couple of things that one need to realize. One is that it's not an aspirational job. Nobody wakes up in the morning and say that I want to be a delivery girl. So you need to understand that it is perhaps, in how we see it, is that it is a stepping stone to perhaps better opportunities that would help them some cushion to take care of their expenses and perhaps find better opportunities. So in that sense, I think if you go with that mindset and connect with people, keeping that in mind, that helps. Second, you need to have role models in community. So that has worked for us. And we were fortunate that without zero marketing or PR budget, we have had coverage where, different media houses have covered the story of girls, and that has given a lot of credibility to the work that they do. Because again, one, it is not aspirational. Second, it is also not seen with a lot of dignity. Not like the respect that you command in society even today. you have to struggle if you are working in this particular space. So I think when it comes to mobilization, such realizations have grounded our initiatives for mobilization, that had helped us to find the right person. And lastly, we have also learned to use technology a bit. So now what we do is that whenever we go and mobilize a girl, we take certain data points. On the basis of the data point, the girl is categorized in NF1, NF2, NF3. And one particular vertical then would have what are the needs for these girls, what time it would take, and what is the cost associated with it. So NF1 girls can be employed between 0 to 7 days, 2 could be employed between 0 to 14 days, and 3 would take anywhere between 1 to 2 months. So these kind of processes over the past decade has helped us to kind of create structures that makes mobilization relatively easier. But it still is the toughest part in the value chain.
Got it. So Yogesh, I mean, of course, mobilization is first step. And Meenu, if you could talk about, even if you are able to mobilize and women do enter, because you've been doing it since so many years, what is stopping? I mean, beyond social norms, we were just talking about finance as being one of the key areas where women, find it difficult to break that barrier. But beyond that, even if they are able to enter, what are the issues that come with retention? Have you seen that women are able to continue doing this for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I would pick up from, where Yogesh was saying. And the biggest factor is the family. If you look at the statistics of violence against women, 90% of the violence against women happens in their families through men that they are related to. So a lot of Azad Foundation's time goes actually in helping women leverage that space from their family that they are allowed to go. Many women who come to train with us as drivers, they actually lie to their families कि हम computer सीखने जा रहे हैं. So that is a major aspect of and I don't think that any initiative, be it education, health, or livelihoods with women can be handled without addressing that whole issue. So Azad Foundation spends a lot of time working with young men in the bastis around issues of gender. So kind of creating a community level ecosystem, because it's not enough to pick up, one woman kind of thing. So that impact and that factor, it impacts throughout their journey. So even when they are into workspaces, firstly, the workspaces have to be, made safer. The women need to feel sort of a sense of confidence that I can handle a challenge. They need to know somebody has their back, so they will be able to do it. And, referring to what you were saying, all of this, it takes money. It takes time. I always say, like, if you were to break this partition, this cardboard wall, we can just break it. Like, it probably doesn't require any labor. You have to break a concrete wall, you'll have to bring, all those bulldozers. And so we are working at breaking hundreds of years of conditioning and oppression, both in the minds of men and women themselves. How do we expect what she is saying? I mean, we cannot. And right now, when women come out to work in these roles, they are coming because they are brave and they are courageous. I mean, there is no ecosystem of support available for them. So and we have all these, research and studies which say if women come, the GDP of the country will go up. But how will the GDP? They come into the workspace with their hand tied behind their back, because they have to do triple work, and it is not recognized anywhere. And not just those women, even all of us also. We have to, you have to go back home, take care of, you have to do unpaid care work, and still they are expected to work 12 hours a day, even 10 hours a day to earn even basic money. So the situation, I mean, it's very challenging. In our experience, therefore, it's not aspirational. The women who are coming in, the biggest trigger is sheer economic necessity. That is why they're coming in, you know.
Distress choice.
It's
choice
a
made in
distress choice. But that's a different thing that when they come in, then as part of Azad Foundation's training program, we, you know, we just don't focus on skills. So we then also work on empowerment, also supporting them to understand that they have a choice and things. So we use it like an excuse to help them empower themselves, learn to take control over their lives, over the money that they earn. But they come because of sheer economic necessity.
And Meenu, if you can also talk a little bit about, so once they get trained, then to get to work, you know, often a vehicle is required if it's a platform. There were some, like Blue Smart used to give their own vehicles. There was this very good article you must have read in Indian Express last week on, you know, women drivers who were working with Blue Smart, and then sort of Blue Smart shut down and what impact it has had on their lives. But there are very few models that allow for that, you know, like stability, and a lot of times women have to invest on their own, get, even in auto rickshaw, even in e-rickshaw. We've done some studies and we found that women find it hard to put up that kind of money. So could you talk a little bit about that entry barrier as well? So once they get trained, then how do
See,
they
I would like to, you know, I am sorry, I may be controversial, but there is a lot of, you know, glamour around the word entrepreneurship. And, you know, the fact is the women who are coming into the, whether it's rider job, chauffeur job, bus driver job, they're all from marginalized communities. We have been working for almost 18 years now. Women are looking for decent work opportunities. Decent work means they want salaries with social security. Like, how many of us here would like to be an entrepreneur? Not too many. You know, you would have 2%, 5%, even in a regular, any sample you take. Most of us are looking for salaried job stability. It's even more so true for women from marginalized communities. So the biggest challenge for them is to come into, in fact, in this context, you know, where they are, we have tried this in Kolkata, you know, because there was so much pressure on us, and it was almost like we are being, you know, sort of obstinate about not trying this. We tried an entrepreneurship model where we got, because the Kolkata government, Mamata Banerjee, started the pink taxis in Kolkata. We got women to get taxis. Women were not willing to take that risk because they didn't have the confidence that they will be able to pay that. The families wouldn't support it. If it was a boy, it was a different thing. For 5 years, we actually lost money because we had to subsidize them, we had to support them. The fact of the matter is that, you know, a man would work 15 hours to pay all the EMI and all the permits and whatever, you know, all the kharcha. A man should also not work 15 hours and 7 days a week. I don't agree with that. But women, so in our case, we have to have 2.5 women per car. There is a cost to it. And who is going to pay that cost? I mean, if the bottom line is only profits and, you know, only like, you know, you can't charge premium rates, nobody is willing to, somewhere somebody has to, and it has to be state and it has to be industry. So, you know, so those are the challenges that women would face because they will not be able to invest in a car of their own. Very few women are able to do that. If they have worked for a long period of time, they will work if they are pushed, but ideally they should not be working for more than 8 to 9 hours so that they can go back home and do their other responsibilities. And most importantly, I think all these initiatives of bringing women into the workforce have to focus on actually targeting men. Men have to learn that housework, the unpaid care work is also their work, because till that happens, it's a very unfair game where in fact there is a lot of backlash that women face because they are not able to, you know,
Actually
you're not
deliver.
back home in time, you've not given garam khana, you've not taken care of children.
You're made to
etc.
feel guilty.
Yes.
And that's not only for under-resourced women.
No,
it's
this
for
is
women
across,
the
exactly,
country, right?
across caste,
So,
class
that is
and race, yeah,
No,
everywhere.
absolutely, Meenu. And I think, Anjali, coming to you as a platform, right? Eternal has multiple platforms. How do you find these delivery partners, and how important is it to for you to partner with organizations who are working on the ground in mobilizing, because that itself is specialized work, right? So how do these market linkages work? Like, how do platforms find delivery partners, and what all have you done to be able to retain them once they come into your network?
So I must clarify how platforms work to begin with. So platforms are marketplaces, right? They exist because they connect a whole range of small buyers and small sellers, and that's the value they bring to the table. Food delivery, just to be quite specific here, is quite a complex three-sided marketplace. We actually have three sets of customers. There's you, who is ordering food. Some of you are even paying membership subscriptions. There's the restaurants who are looking for customers for the food that they are producing. And there are delivery partners who are looking at this as a livelihood platform. I often call delivery work some form of national urban livelihood guarantee, because people will participate in it and then step out. And one of the most lovely things about it is that it's flexible. You can go to your village and give the exams. You can, Jab Marzi is a very big benefit of delivery work, which men also seek, not just women. But men, you'll be surprised at how many men have left to 8-hour jobs, 12-hour jobs. Yesterday I was in a room full of, half the men had left security jobs. Half the men had left, some people have left mining jobs in Jharkhand and they've come to be delivery partners. And they're telling me things like, ऐसा लग रहा है कि इस काम में कोई काम ही नहीं है, हम बस घूमते रहते हैं, and they're treating it like some kind of vacation from, it's very interesting to understand the kind of work and sort of sometimes very exploitative circumstances people are escaping through delivery work. I mean, I'm putting it out there. It's a reality. Now, the important thing is that we do not, at this point in time, rely on partnerships for onboarding people, because we can't. We do digital advertising, and most people will join us through referral. People in the room yesterday, out of 10 people, the other 10 were brought by the first 10. Right? I've brought my brother into this. I've brought my friend into this. So referral and advertising continue to be digital advertising continue to be the main mode of onboarding people.
And that works for women as well.
Surprisingly, it has worked for women who, as Yogesh pointed out and Meenu pointed out, desperately need to work. So women whose husbands have died, women who have left their husbands, women whose husbands are too ill to work. Mostly it has worked for this group of women who have children, single mothers. It has worked brilliantly for this group of women, and it continues to. We have, by the way, 4,000 active female delivery partners. It's not a small number by any stretch of imagination. But if I might extend the thought to what both of them very wisely said, we need three kinds of revolutions in India if we are going to see large-scale women workforce participation, especially in what, as Meenu pointed out, is not a very high-skilled job, right? What do you need? You need writing skills, you need basic digital skills, and you need some level of confidence to interact with customers. These are the three skills you need. They're not very difficult. Most men go from wearing shorts to long pants to learning how to ride a two-wheeler. There are no two-wheeler driving schools in India. Most people don't need to go to one, right? We are thinking about it for women because it's not so natural a progression for women. We need three revolutions. The first is we need a cultural revolution. Very clearly, we need to emphasize that all forms of work should be done by both genders at home as well as outside the home. China actually did this, and that is why they have 60% labor force participation of women. We have to undertake a similar state-sponsored campaign around it. It cannot stop with Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. It has to extend to Beti ko job dilao, literally, and let her work, and she must work. That has to happen. The second revolution is Beti ko Beti ko, yeah, every life skills, exactly. That is such a great idea. And the second revolution is the skilling revolution. We cannot, our skilling programs are gendered. Why are we pushing so many women into tailoring and beauty? As though there are so many tailoring and beauty jobs available in every village, kone. You should have writing skills. Why isn't writing seen as a skill? And it's such a legitimate skill. Why isn't finance for a two-wheeler seen as financing an asset? right? And the second is the cost. I mean, the third revolution is the financing and cost revolution. There are some unnecessary costs put on companies. Why should a 2,000 square feet store have 2 bathrooms, one for men, one for women? When we go to a cafe to have a coffee, we all use a unisex toilet. So clearly that rule doesn't apply for customers. But if you have women employees, you need to have 2 toilets. The 2 toilet rule itself is so, I mean, you cannot achieve it in a 2,000 square feet space. Right? It's a non-remunerative space. What about this rule of female security guard? Har jagah you need female security guard. How can a company afford to have two legions of security systems? These are like ridiculous things. Women not working at
you're
night.
saying that-
It's safe for women to work at night in Telangana. It cannot be done in some other state. That's a bit ridiculous. India is one country. Either women can work at night or they cannot work at night. We are imposing our own moral views on how and where and why women should work. These are some things we have to address. And yes, lifestyles will change. China, 33 meals in a month are eaten outside of home. In India, that's 5. You will not have this elaborate thali meals at home if women are working. And that's a fact that we will have to accept.
Anjali, so basically what you're saying is that you have to, even regulations have to make it easy for companies to employ women. And in fact, I think the new labor codes to an extent do that, right? Now they have allowed women to work. I mean, I don't even know. When I discovered first that women were not allowed to work at night, I laughed to myself. But now we have allowed women to work at night also, if they can. But there are these things, norms around security, etc. But Yogesh, in your case, you do work with e-commerce companies, and they sort of onboard women delivery partners through you. What do you think about some of these safeguards that are put in place, whether it is toilets or anything else that you think? Because safety is a big concern, right? And safety at the workplace works a little differently than safety in a cafe, I would say, right? Because the power dynamic is very different. You have a POSH Act specifically for sexual harassment at work, although sexual harassment is illegal across the country. So of course there is a different dynamic that you have at the workplace. So some people would push back against that, saying that, it's not the same. Any thoughts on that?
So I think there's merit to, I think, what Anjali shared. I think the only challenge that I see is that obviously all these things, from my understanding, are feasible, but we need to have better training mechanism then. We need to train their staff better so that they are sensitive, they know what they're up to, what their job is. I think that could be one addition that could help make all these things possible. And the best thing about corporates are they're really innovative. So they would show you the way, how can you actually do things with yeah. So I think what's important is the amalgamation of making sure that workplaces are safe. At the same time, it should also work for the employer who is employing those women. And second, I believe we usually look at gender inclusion in the hindsight or retrospect. So if we start creating system, keeping gender in mind, or perhaps safety, security in mind, a lot of these challenges will be addressed there only. We have worked with Lodha Group in Mumbai. They're setting up perhaps Asia's biggest logistics park, and it is just 20% occupied. So they asked us that you have worked for a decade in this space, help us make this park more inclusive. So 80% still needs to, 80% of the park still needs to be occupied. So we did a thorough 6-month study with them, and we gave certain recommendation, 150-page report. And that was so refreshing to see that somebody is looking at gender inclusion from the word go.
So what kind of things did you include in that report?
Multiple things, and majority of those things are known, like you need to have better creches, you need to have infrastructure designed in a way that where the washroom should be for the girl, because there's a assembly line, so the girl needs to be closer to that. There were skill mapping which was done. So we focus on employment. Our main agenda is employment. So usually what employers say is that we don't find the right talent. And we wanted to address that. So what we did was we did skill mapping of the place which is surrounding that particular logistics park. That has helped these employers to know what skills are available in the vicinity, what skills women needs to be trained on, and what skills they need to borrow from outside. So that kind of helps them to have a 5 years picture on when to apply, who to employ, when to employ, and where to employ. So I think that kind of helps. So looking at gender inclusion from start helps in our understanding.
And can you talk a little bit about this safety routes, etc., also mapping that you do, which helps women in continuing the work?
So I think we only work with e-commerce industries because that's the only place where we can ensure safety. So the thing is that if a girl is employed with a particular logistics e-commerce hub, the girl is assigned 2 routes at max. So the girl knows where to go every single day she reports. She knows where to go and she's familiar with the place. Second, once she delivers one parcel, the supervisor gets to know that the parcel is delivered. Next parcel should be delivered within 15 minutes. So if it's already 30 minutes and if the person sees that it's not delivered, the call goes. Third, we already have done the background check from law enforcement agencies, from data from e-commerce companies to know whether this is a safe route or not. From that angle, we can create better and safe working environment for women within e-commerce space. So this is the reason why we have always confined ourselves to e-commerce space.
Great. But Meenu, you work with drivers like, who are cab drivers, and cab is ultimately a closed space, right? So TQH also works with, Uber, etc. And safety is always very high on every cab aggregator's mind as well, because, that is a big business risk also for them. So how have you sort of addressed this issue of safety? And one is safety inside the cab of the driver, but also outside, right? There are no public washrooms, or there are very few public washrooms. If you're around the whole day, a lot of time men would just stop the car and they'll be like, madam, I'm coming in 5 minutes. It has happened to me so many times, right? But women don't have that luxury. So how do you look at that? Because then your workplace is your city, right? And we know that our cities are not very good on this aspect.
Sure. I think on the safety, when women come into Azad for training, one of the things that everybody goes through is training on self-defense. And more than actually learning those tactics, it is helping them make a mind shift that I can protect myself. Apart from that, she is given training in the laws and how to protect herself from violence and all of that. And at the end of that training, what happens is, they gain that confidence, the confidence that allows you to be on the road. That confidence they gain because they know, one, that they can take care of themselves, two, that if something was to happen, somebody has my back. They know that they have the capacity to deal with the police, with whatever. So those are the skills that they acquire. But other than that, of course, we have a 24/7 panic button. We have a call center which monitors the cars on the GPS, and they have a pepper spray. But interestingly, 90% of the women who have come into Azad for training, Azad has to spend a lot of their time helping them address violence which happens at home. Once they are with Sakha and they are in the marketplace, hardly 10% of the issues would even come to our attention because they are able to handle it. They are able to, and we have a sort of zero tolerance policy on that. All the drivers know that if they sense a threat or dangers of some kind, they can say no to the customer and drive away. In any case, 80% of our business is B2B, so we also have that, that comfort. But then there are women who are now driving DTC buses, like almost 100 women who are now driving DTC buses in Delhi. There are women who have chosen to go to Europe and drive the trailers in a partnership that we have there. So my thing on violence always comes from like once, of course there is a lot of violence in the society. 1 in 3 women, as per UN statistics, has lived with gender-based violence. But to address it, the most important thing is to give that confidence to the women and to know that they have a choice, that
they
they
can
don't
walk
deserve.
away.
Yes, and they can walk away, they can ask for help, they can, and to have companies which have their back on that and are able to, you know, support, whether it is legal fees, whether it is support with police, you know, those other things. But I would also add to what Yogesh said about the about the recommendations. And in our experience, for example, even with DTC, we did a study some time back of the women drivers, and you know, when there are equal number of men and women in a workspace, I can understand what Anjali is saying about having unisex or in a smaller. But in a DTC depot where there are, you know, 5 women in a between 5,000 men, having separate bathrooms and restrooms is very critical.
Important, yeah.
More importantly, since a lot of women have to actually fight at their homes to be able to come out and work, there needs to be many more safe shelters for women. There need to be creches which run full time. Most of the, and not just full time, they should be not just for infants or young people, but even women who have young teens as their children. And if they are single women, like leaving them home alone is putting them in a very vulnerable situation. So there is a need to have all this investment in the ecosystem, which China would have done 100%, without which it cannot be.
No, of course. So China, I think, has integrated gender into their urban planning. Beijing government, I think, like for example, has invested so much in creches, in these rest shelters, as you were saying. And I think ultimately, if everybody is on the road, I mean, if your city is your workplace, then the city has to provide these as well. Anjali, I just wanted to ask that ultimately you are a tech company, right? And you are a platform. Some of these problems, how has tech helped in, you know, achieving safety for your platform-based workers? And discrimination can be based on gender, but it can also be based on, you know, sometimes religion, caste. I don't know whether it's been the experience of, I mean, I don't know, platforms on eternal. But with disability, for example, I love your workflow that you get a call basically saying that the person who's going to deliver to you has so and so disability, so can you please meet them at the door, so that the person who is receiving the order is also there. So if you could talk a little bit about what kind of workflows have you integrated in your platform itself to make sure that, you know, women have somebody on their back.
Absolutely. Tech has a big role to play. I would think policy, the anti-harassment policies, the starting point. And then there is and anti-discrimination policies as well are the starting point. We also do, I must tell you, regular algorithm audits. So we check to see whether the algorithm has any biases in work allocation. And, you know, just to see that, and yes, there's a lot of perceived, you know, there is this, oh, unko zyada order mil raha hai. That will come out in focus group discussions. But when you actually study the algorithm, how much orders have been assigned, you will not find any discrimination whatsoever. What we actively do, and this is an affirmative action, so to speak, is we give women riders shorter distance deliveries. But they have the option of taking on longer distance if they want and if they seek to, because a lot of women actually want to earn more, and you can earn more through longer distance deliveries, obviously, because payouts are tied to distance as well. So there are some women who have switched that feature off, and that's how we also enable persons with disabilities, because they can't participate in very long distance deliveries. Their vehicles are also slower speed. So technology does play a big role. We have similar panic buttons, emergency operations, a lot of on-ground team support as well. And absolutely, we find that women are not experiencing the kind of negativity that one is imagining in the world. You know, they're not entering homes to begin with, right? They're handing over parcels. So I think some of that safety concerns are overblown. At least in a survey that we did, the more than 70% of women said this is not unsafe for women at all. And we were pleasantly surprised. You know, we thought that they might have a lot of negative experiences. So that aspect is overblown. And I want to also collectively in this room ask the question that what is the right thing to do about safety? Because we assume Indian men cannot change. We assume, unfortunately, it's a very sad thing. We have bucketed them as some kind of wild animals who don't know how to behave around women and who cannot control any kind of urge. It's a very sad view that we have taken of our boys and men. You know, and therefore we said no. So therefore, if we have to introduce women in this atmosphere, we have to create ladies coaches. We have to create a lot of hard infrastructure. We'll have to we'll have to make things very difficult for employers as well. Trust me, employers are dying to employ more women. It is just complicated on ground. And yes, there are a lot of men who are resistant or even engage in harassment. But I'm just saying that a lot of those things can be overcome if as a society we could take a call. We are going to train our men to treat women with respect wherever they are, inside the home or outside the home. That is the number one decision we need to take. Else we will just keep creating compliance costs for companies that companies can fulfill one day, can't fulfill another day, and companies are also struggling. Tell me something, setting up daycares at a company level, it's not viable to set up a daycare for 20 women, right? You need at least 100 women, at least 50 of those women need to have small children, 50 of those women need to be willing to bring the child to the daycare. If they're coming from a 1 hour distance, they would rather maybe leave the child at home. So government has to step in with some of these and subsidize some of these arrangements, because at their level, what is the use? Will you take your child to a daycare that is not professionally run? It is such a sensitive industry. It's highly regulated in many countries. Let's be practical. Let's be practical about who needs to bear the costs, the risks. And let's collectively decide that yes, we can train men. Our men are trainable. Our men are capable of, when they go outside abroad, they seem to be able to behave themselves. Why is it in India that they cannot?
Okay, great. Thanks, Anjali. I think very important point. I think men and boys is something that we all have to focus on. And we don't have to think that they're wild animals who cannot be tamed. You're right. Okay, let's open it for audience, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Also let us know. Yes, sir. At the back, can somebody give them a mic? Standing. If you can just quickly introduce yourself also, that'll be great.
Thank you. I'm Sandesh Pawar from United Way, Mumbai. एक्चुअली मेरे दो कंसर्न हैं, करंट चैलेंजेस है जो अभी हम फेस कर रहे हैं. जैसे कि हर सेक्टर में महिला आगे बढ़ रही है. अभी लास्ट मंथ में ही एक न्यूज़ आया था कि जो फीमेल ट्रेन ड्राइवर रिटायर हुए, यानी इंडिया की फर्स्ट फीमेल ड्राइवर थी सविता यादव. वैसे ड्राइविंग सेक्टर में महिला आगे बढ़ रही है, लेकिन जो अभी करंट चैलेंजेस है कि सिंगल पेरेंट जो महिला है, उनके बच्चों को जब वो डिलीवरी का जॉब करते हैं तो उनको साथ में लेके जाना पड़ता है. तो ऐसी कुछ पॉलिसी जो कंपनी उनको डिलीवरी जॉब ऑफर करते हैं, तो ऐसा कुछ उनके लिए स्कीम या स्ट्रैटेजी ले सकती है कि थ्रू उनके बच्चों का भी केयर कर सके. दूसरा है, बहुत सारी महिलाओं को हमने 4 व्हीलर 3 व्हीलर सिखाया. सीखने के बाद उनको खुद का बिजनेस शुरू करना है या कार लेनी है, लेकिन उनको लोन लेने में बहुत दिक्कत हो सकती है. तो क्या सपोर्ट उनको मिल सकता है इसके लिए?
जो दूसरा वाला है उसमें देर इज़ अ रियल चैलेंज जो आप कह रहे हैं कि बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द डिलीवरी एंड ई-कॉमर्स they ask, we use e-bikes, right? And e-bikes are not even considered as vehicles as per a lot of banks. So the women are not able to get a loan from the banks. तो I agree with you that there have to be मतलब special mechanisms होने चाहिए, and that is one of the things जो policy में होना चाहिए कि जो महिलाएं delivery या e-commerce में जाना चाहती हैं उनको बहुत आसान शर्तों पर गाड़ी लेने का लोन पे ये फैसिलिटी should be provided by the state, by funders, by donor organizations, whatever, you know, वो होने की ज़रूरत है. जो कैब के लिए आप कह रहे हैं, मैं मतलब उसमें तो what was that?
The session time is up.
Okay.
Loud bell.
उसमें तो चैलेंज है ही, but I would just say from our experience that, you know, the women have to think twice before they go into that, because एक महिला एक गाड़ी को अगर लोन पे लेगी तो वो नहीं चुका पाएगी उसका लोन. The numbers don't add up. We can talk about that later. Yeah.
And जो दूसरा question था around social security.
I'll quickly answer this. So what we do at Event Cargo is we have something called first loss guarantee, which means that we have parked some amount with the bank, and the any women who want to get a two-wheeler can get it free of cost, as in without paying down payment. She will earn, then pay monthly EMI. So that's what we have done. Private sectors have been doing this in their own capacity, but I agree there has to be some policy level intervention wherein they can be given subsidized interest rates and without down payment possibly. So that's just from our experience.
And social security, I think एक question था.
बच्चों का कह रहे हैं वो बहुत ही real challenge है, and if you look at it from a child rights perspective, it is criminal to leave young children home alone, and in the current context जो उनके the kind of risk and danger, बहुत सारे हमारे ऐसी stories हैं कि जो छोटी उम्र के लड़के हैं they get into drugs, जो लड़कियां हैं उनकी safety का खतरा रहता है, and वही बात मैं भी कह रही हूँ सर कि जब हम महिलाओं को काम में लाते हैं तो हमें इनके बारे में सोचना ज़रूरी है. वो क्रैश चाहे उस स्लम में हो, उस बस्ती में हो या कहीं और हो, पर जब तक हम वो सेफ्टी प्रोवाइड नहीं करेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि हम इन महिलाओं का सिर्फ उपयोग कर रहे हैं इसलिए कि हम अपना इकोनॉमी बढ़ा सकें. हम it's absolutely criminal to not pay attention to that. I totally agree with you, but I don't think कि अभी policy level पर या practice level पर भी किसी ने इस बात पर ध्यान दिया है.
I guess we are out of time as we have been told by the loud bell. Can we have a big round of applause for everyone on this panel? Thank you so much.
Thank you for a very wonderful and engaging discussion and discussing the importance of positioning mobility as a subsector for women's entrepreneurship through a holistic ecosystem support. Thank you. Really enjoyable discussion. So I'd like to request you all to please join us front and center for a photo op. Right after this, we are moving on to a special segment, which is the launch of Vrutti's FPO financing facility with HSBC as anchor partner and FWWB as facility manager. We will also be witnessing the release of a primer on FPO blended financing, highlighting how blended finance can unlock responsible credit for FPOs.